What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get into in the world of volleyball, such as Hawaii winning not one, not two, but 3 games in the Outrigger Invitational. But did they lose a little something in the process? Also, how about USC finally getting another top 10 win as they took down Penn State? How special was that win, and did they get 2 for the price of 1 against Ohio State? Also, Long Beach State narrowly getting past UC Santa Barbara. How did the Beach avoid an upset? Also, how about Vanguard men's volleyball taking down Ottawa, Arizona in straight sets? Who do the Lions have next in the NAIA men's volleyball world? Also, how about Stanford taking down UCLA again? Is that enough for them to get into the number 1 spot of the AVCA coaches poll? Or did they lose to someone down the stretch? Also, how about Miracosta doing well in the Best of the West tournament, winning the tournament, knocking off a familiar foe that they're all too familiar with? Hand me a volleyball. Set up the net, because I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IESR Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 237 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at IE Sports Radio. We also have a Facebook page. All you just have to do is type in the word IE Sports and then radio in the search bar, like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us on Facebook. We also have a website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our community forum, and our merchandise shop. For the last 9 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit planetjerky.net and place your order. In addition, prices are slashed for the time being, and if you buy $50 worth or more on an order, you'll get the shipping for free. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. And once again, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Our second sponsor is Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia Belmontes. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch. Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or friend and you want to add their smile when they receive it. If that's the case, then seal the deal with Cecilia handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts are just for you. Their motto is, you bring the deal and we'll bring the seal. Follow them on Instagram at @sealthedeal_wax stamps. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point.ie, and on Instagram at @set_point.iesr. And you can follow me, Teran Rodriguez, mainly on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Teran Rodriguez1. And without any further delay, let us begin. So we have a lot of NCAA men's volleyball to discuss from Week 10. As the chat room is getting a little lively, Jen B says, have a great show, Teran. And Ralph Calise said, show 237, you sir are a legend, have a great show. Well, I appreciate that, Ralph. But let's jump on into some NCAA men's volleyball. So there was a little something that happened this past week in the NCAA men's volleyball world. It's called the Outrigger Invitational. Now, I will just say this brings out some of the best talent in the NCAA men's volleyball world, and Hawaii does a great job of hosting it. The first match that happened was on Thursday, and this was a doozy. Number 5 UC Irvine taking on number 1 Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon went up 2-0 in the match. They took a very close set 3. They lost the first set, but then rebounded to take the second set. And then the fourth set came. It was such a tight set. It looked like neither team was willing to relinquish the lead, but Irvine was able to take that fourth set. It went 5, and it was at that point I thought to myself, Grand Canyon is in a world of trouble, because UC Irvine has played 5-set matches. They beat the likes of BYU. They also beat the likes of... No, Stanford was in 4 sets, but they also played the likes of UCLA, which they managed to play as tough as they could, but unfortunately they wound up losing that one. They played 3 5-set matches, and this was definitely going to be the nail in the coffin for Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon had not played a 5-set match this season, and then when it came down to that 5th set, UC Irvine just took charge. Halir Heno led the way for UC Irvine, 29 kills, he hit 406. UC Irvine took that 5th set 15-6, handing Grand Canyon their first loss of the season. Now, I really wish this could have been televised and broadcasted nationally. I think Grand Canyon was streaming it on their Facebook page, but unfortunately, that's not it's not the way you grow the game. You gotta if you want to grow the game of NCAA men's volleyball, you gotta show the game. Get a matchup like that deserves national recognition, and unfortunately, it was just available only on stats. I think Grand Canyon remedied the problem as they got their other matches televised, their match against Lewis televised on their Facebook page, but this matchup definitely needed to see some recognition in terms of the viewership that could not make it to Hawaii. Anyway, also, but besides Halir Heno, Will Darcy added 19 kills. He hit 548. It's a big boy game right there, as he had 11 digs to go along with those 19 kills. Max Grigoriev had 12 kills. Brett Sheward had 10 digs in his return to Hawaii. Remember, he was on Hawaii before he transferred to UC Irvine. He had 10 digs to go along with those 58 assists. Akil Tengatur, he had 10 digs. Cole Power had 15 digs. Grand Canyon was led by Jackson Hickman, who had 23 kills and 15 digs. Cameron Thorne added 14 kills. Camden Gianni, he had 12 kills. Nick Slight and Cooper Herndon both had 10 digs. Grand Canyon only hit 283, while UC Irvine hit 370. Now, I said only because it could have been a whole lot better than that. They're definitely an efficient team, but unfortunately they were not efficient enough, and they were even good at the service line, which is their big strength. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. They also outblocked UC Irvine, but again, not enough, because the Anteaters pulled off the big win in the first match of the Outrigger Invitational. Second matchup was Lewis versus Hawaii. Number 14 Lewis taking on number 3 Hawaii. This one, we didn't miss too much of this, as this was broadcasted via Spectrum Hawaii and ESPN+, but a long story short, Hawaii breezed through this one. 25-9, 25-18, and 25-21. Spiros Hakas had 15 kills. Lewis, on the other hand, only had 9 kills from Max Roque. They had no other players in double digits in terms of kills. Hawaii had 10 aces, and they only missed 11 serves, while Lewis only had 1 ace and missed 16 serves. Lewis also only had 10 digs. They could not dig the ball for anything. Hawaii even hit 458. That was just how crazy Hawaii's win was, and so dominant as well. Then, next day, Friday, this one was another doozy. UC Irvine taking on Lewis. UC Irvine took the first set, Lewis took the second set, and then Irvine took the third set. And then I was seeing that Lewis was basically on the verge of forcing a fourth set. Again, this unfortunately was not televised. It wasn't broadcasted, and that's such a bummer. Lewis took that fourth set. It was going 5, and unfortunately for UC Irvine, one day after they upset Grand Canyon, they fell to Lewis. The number 5 Anteaters fell to the number 14 Flyers, 15-11 in that 5th set, and they fell in 5. Lewis was led by Daniel Haber, who had 17 kills. Cyver Drolsum added 16 kills. Max Roque, 15 kills. Sean Baggs, 10 kills. Irvine was led by Halir Heno, who had 24 kills. He had 419. Will Darcy had 17 kills. Connor Campbell, he had 13 kills. He had 500. Max Grigoriev had 10 kills, and he had 471. Goal power, 12 digs. Akil Tangatur, 8 kills to go along with 10 digs. Unfortunately, it was not enough. The Flyers were able to pull off that upset. It's just so amazing that you go from beating the number one team in the nation to unfortunately falling to a team that you probably could beat on a nightly basis. The thing is about Lewis, they didn't even come in with a top 5 win, and they got it against UC Irvine, and it was a grinded out game. And that's the thing about Lewis. There's just such an unpredictable team. They're so much better than last year's team, and no offense to last year's team, but they're just all over the place. One day they're unfortunately getting stomped all over, and then another day they're looking like they lose to an unranked team, and now they beat a very good UC Irvine team. And then this matchup following that one was Grand Canyon, number 1 Grand Canyon taking on number 3 Hawaii. I just gotta say, this was a masterful performance by Hawaii. Straight sweep by the Rainbow Warriors, 25-17, 25-20, and 25-20. Hawaii just served so aggressively. They turned the tables on Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon only had 1 ace and missed 12 serves. Hawaii only missed 7 serves, and they had 8 aces. That was how crazy Hawaii beating Grand Canyon was. And again, it's so tough to win at Hawaii, but you got to remember, Grand Canyon has played in tough gymnasiums, such as BYU. Very tough place to win at. And sadly, they just could not get the job done at Simplify Arena. Hawaii was led by Spiros Hakas, 14 kills, he hit 478. Alakai Todd, 11 kills, he hit 692. Hawaii as a team hit 449, and even Grand Canyon hitting 304 was not able to help them. The Grand Canyon also got out blocked 11 to 4.5. Like I said, the service error battle was no contest. Grand Canyon was led by Camden Gianni, who had 16 kills. Jackson Hickman had 8 kills. Gianni was pretty much the offense, as he almost had half the kills that Grand Canyon had as a team. And then Sunday, I guess every team had a day off just to recharge the batteries, do some Hawaii things. But Grand Canyon, number 1 Grand Canyon, took on number 14 Lewis for the two teams' last matchup. And through the first 2 sets, it was looking pretty grim for Grand Canyon. Lewis took the first 2 sets 25-23 and 25-18. But then Lewis really kicked in an overdrive, took that third set 25-17, and just rolled through that fourth set 25-14. Not too many problems there. And then the fifth set, Grand Canyon got off to such a hot start. They took that 15-11. They avoided an 0-3 week. If that had been the case, that would have been so tragic for Grand Canyon. They would have fallen out of the top 5 as they fell out of that number 1 spot from the AVCA coaches poll. As Jared Anderson led the Lopes with 14 kills. Jackson Hickman and Cameron Thorne both had 13 kills. Rico Wardlow, 10 kills. Grand Canyon hit 407. That looked like the Grand Canyon we all came to know. They also outdug Lewis 50-35. They also outblocked the Flyers 14 to 10.5. They also missed 10 serves. That's definitely only missed 10 serves, while Lewis missed 16. Lewis was led by Max Roque, who had 20 kills. Cyver Drolsum, 15 kills. Daniel Haber, 13 kills. Unfortunately, it was not enough, as Lewis just unfortunately missed out on another chance to upset another top 10 team. Then we close it out with this matchup. Number 5, UC Irvine taking on number 3, Hawaii in a non-conference matchup. So the first set, it was close, and UC Irvine was able to eke it out as they took that first set 25-23. Then the second set, Hawaii took it 25-19. Third set, it was more back and forth than I expected it to be, as Irvine jumped out to a big lead. They led 8-5, and then Hawaii answered with a 7-0 run. Eventually, some strong serving from the Rainbow Warriors helped them take that third set 25-22. Then the fourth set, Irvine got off to a 6-2 start. They eventually led 12-2. That was how bad it was for Hawaii. And then Hawaii got the lead down to as little as 5, only being down 20-15. But then Irvine just took that fourth set 25-17, and then it went 5. Then the fifth set, Hawaii jumped out to a 3-0 lead, courtesy of Keani Thim. I called him Keani Him because he was him during the service line, at the service line. Irvine got to as little as 2. They kept getting closer and closer. It was 8-6 at the side switch, but then Hawaii responded, led 10-6. Irvine got down to 11-8. Eventually, Hawaii had match point at 14-10, and then here's where the craziness happens. UC Irvine dodges one match point. Then they dodge a second match point. And then on the third match point, Hawaii goes to Spiros Hakas, and that's the most logical choice, right? Well, unfortunately, Hakas gets roofed, and that's not the worst part. Hakas lands awkwardly on his left leg, and he's just clutching at his knee, and it's just looking bad. It just looks very bad. Hawaii doesn't have a star player. He's being carried off to the locker room. It's just all sorts of bad for Hawaii. It almost looked like everything was being unraveled, just like the Loyola Chicago match from week 1. Fortunately for Hawaii, they had other players in the arsenal offensively. They went to Guilherme Voss. He tagged the back line with his kill, and Hawaii just escaped with that fifth set win, 15-13. But, oh man, if Spiros Hakas is out for a longer period of time, I hope, not for nothing but the best for Spiros, I hope that it's nothing more than a knee sprain or a knee contusion. But if he's out for a long period of time, or he's out for the year, that's bad news for Hawaii, because they need him in their pursuits of being the national champions. And this week is going to be a tough week because they might not have Spiros, and they're going to Long Beach State this week, as Hawaii was led by Spiros Hakas himself, the most outstanding player of the Outrigger Invitational. He had 17 kills, he had 8 digs. Alakai Todd had 13 kills, he had 6 digs. Ilu Choi had 10 digs. Keani Thim, as I was mentioning, he had 12 digs. He had 5 service aces. He also had 5 kills. He is an unsung hero, in my opinion, and don't be surprised if he takes the place of Spiros Hakas, even though Spiros is so tough to replace. Irvine was led by Halir Heno, 36 kills. 36 kills. That is the most by any player this season in NCAA Men's Volleyball Division 1-2. He had over half the kills that UC Irvine had as a team. He also hit 412. He was all tournament. Akil Tangatur had 10 kills. Brett Sheward had 22 digs. Again, this was such a coming out party for Brett Sheward. His return to Hawaii, and it could not have been a better one. He got a great reception from the Hawaii fans, and he balled out this past weekend. Unfortunately for UC Irvine, they went 1-2 with losing 2 tough 5-setters to Lewis and Hawaii. And Hawaii, they went 3-0, which is why I called this episode Hawaii 3-0. Because they went 3-0 the past weekend. So, outstanding Outrigger Invitational. I wish we could have seen the Grand Canyon UC Irvine match, as well as the Grand Canyon Lewis match and the UC Irvine Lewis match, but I can't complain too much about it. It is what it is from everything at Hawaii. Nothing but respect and mahalo to Hawaii for putting on another amazing Outrigger Invitational. That wasn't the only thing that happened in NCAA Men's Volleyball. We had the Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge. The last time it's going to be called that just because, USC and UCLA are going into the Big Ten in terms of every sport. But since there's no Big Ten in men's volleyball, it's just not going to be called the Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge. It's probably just going to be called the Big Ten Challenge. But the challenge started on Wednesday when USC took on Penn State. Number 12 USC took on Penn State. The Trojans upset Penn State in 4. It was Jeff Nygaard's 100th victory. I need to get him on set point extra points or any time on the show. I'd love to chat volleyball with him. As USC was led by Jack Duker, who had 14 kills. Dylan Klein had 13 kills. Riley Hain, 11 kills. USC only hit 238 compared to Penn State's 250, as the Nittany Lions were led by John Kerr, who had 21 kills. He had over half of Penn State's kills. But unfortunately, it was just not enough, as Penn State also beat CSUN to start the week, as they had to take him to 4 the night before. So I can imagine Penn State had some tired legs going into that one. Then we jump to Friday. Penn State had round 2 against Penn State, as the previous matchup was in the First Point Collegiate Challenge in Austin, Texas, where UCLA swept the Nittany Lions. This one was a little different. UCLA took the first set 25-20, but then Penn State took the next 2 sets 25-21 and 25-22, but UCLA took that fourth set 15-21. And even though Penn State tried to make a comeback in set 5, it was 10-10, but Penn State unfortunately just ran out of juice. UCLA eventually won the 5th set 15-12. Big night for Ethan Champlin. He had 15 kills. Cooper Robinson had 11 kills. He hit 450. Champlin hit 500. UCLA hit 327 as a team, as John Kerr led Penn State with 19 kills. Michael Valenzi, 10 kills. Unfortunately, it was just not enough, as Penn State only had 4 blocks on the night. Even though UCLA had 6, it was just an ugly night. Also ugly in terms of the service errors in that match. Penn State had 25 missed serves, but Penn State one-upped them, and I do mean that literally, as they had one more service error than Penn State did, having 26 service errors compared to Penn State's 25. But it was a great match overall. Unfortunately, it was just an unlucky week for Penn State, as they went 1-4 on their 1-3 on their West Coast road trip, losing to Long Beach State last week or 2 weeks ago, and then losing to USC and UCLA, which was such a kick in the face, but only beating CSUN. Then we had Ohio State taking on USC. USC trying to get a little revenge on the Buckeyes after they beat USC in the First Point Collegiate Challenge. USC did take that first set 25-22, and then it kind of went a little ugly in that second set. They lost by 14, aka 25-11. Then Ohio State eked out that third set 25-23, and they rode the momentum off to winning set 4 25-20, as Ohio State was able to make it 2-for-2 against USC, as Jacob Pastor led Ohio State with 15 kills. Kyle Tune and Shane Wetzel both had 11 kills. Ohio State hit 387, and as USC only hit 223. It's not going to get the job done. You know what else isn't going to get the job done for USC? Getting blocked 14 times and only having 4.5 blocks. That won't get you any wins over top 10 teams, unfortunately, USC. As the Trojans were led by Dylan Klein, 17 kills, he hit 357. Jack Duker had 13 kills. Unfortunately, it was just another tough loss for USC. A missed opportunity for the Trojans, because them picking up 2 top 10 wins would have catapulted them into the top 10 for sure. And then Sunday, the last match of the Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge was between Ohio State and UCLA. Round 2 between these teams, as Ohio State reverse swept the Bruins, but there was no reverse sweep. The only sweep that was happening was UCLA sweeping Ohio State out the gym. The key was that first set. UCLA was down 23-22, rattled off 3 straight points, won that first set, and then they didn't have too many problems. The second set, they never trailed. Third set was a little up and down. However, UCLA was able to take control and just run away from there, as the Bruins were led by Ethan Champlin. He had 10 kills. UCLA hit 429. Ohio State had Jacob Pastor leading the way with 13 kills. Shane Wetzel, 11 kills. Kyle Toon, 10 kills. Ohio State only hit 278, and they had 16 hitting errors compared to UCLA's 7. And Ohio State also missed one. They had only one ace and missed 18 serves, while UCLA only missed 11 serves and had 7 aces. Blocks weren't ultimately high. It was a 3-set match, so there was that right there. So that's that for the Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge, and it's never going to be called that anymore because, as we all know, UCLA and USC are heading to the Big Ten. Anyway, so other matchups we had BYU knocking off Stanford in 5 at Maples Pavilion. Remember, this was the scene of the crime where BYU unfortunately fell and saw their season come to an end, losing in the MPSF semifinals to the Cardinal, but they wound up winning on the road in Stanford. Some say that Stanford's not the toughest place to win at. I would basically challenge that, but I ain't gonna. That 5th set was also decided 18-16. BYU had a lot of resilience. Big night for Capono Brown, who had 26 kills. Luke Benson only played 4 sets, but he did have 13 kills. Mix Romanis had a double-double, 12 kills, 13 digs. Stanford was led by Will Rotman, who had 17 kills. Kevin Lamp added 14 kills. Nathaniel Gates had 9 kills. Stanford did get the revenge against BYU in the second matchup, as Stanford just swept BYU. This was the Stanford I was coming to expect, as they didn't have any player in double-digit kills, but they had a spread-out night. Kevin Lamp led the way with 9 kills. Moses Wagner had 8 kills. Will Rotman and Nathaniel Gates both had 6 kills. Ethan Hill had 5 kills. Stanford hit a solid 299 while holding BYU to 224, as Mix Romanis led the Cougars with 17 kills. And then we had this matchup going to the Big West Conference. We had Long Beach State beating UC Santa Barbara, but it was a little closer than expected. First matchup was on Friday at the Pyramid. Santa Barbara took that first set 25-22. Little surprised at that. And then the second set, Long Beach State kind of caught their second wind. They took the second set 25-21. They took the third set fairly easily, winning it 25-20. And then Long Beach State just went into overdrive, won the fourth set 25-20. As the Beach was led by Skylar Varga, who had 19 kills, hit 395. Sotiris Chapanis had 15 kills. Clark Godbold had 14 kills. Long Beach State as a team, they hit 411, even when Santa Barbara hit 333 as a team. Even when Santa Barbara also had a big night from Jest Bianchi, who had 25 kills. He was the only one in double digits in kills for the Gauchos, as I'll also just mention this. He had over half of UC Santa Barbara's kills. Half. This was kind of the not-so-defensive matchup. Mason Briggs, I should mention as an honoree for Defensive Player of the Game. He had 11 digs, but there weren't too many blocks. Santa Barbara only had 4.5 blocks. Long Beach State had 6.5 blocks. Serving was a little ugly in this game, so this was mainly offensive-orientated, so if you're not a offensive type of guy, then that match was not for you. Now, the second matchup between Long Beach State and UC Santa Barbara was the match. This was a doozy of a matchup, as Long Beach State needed 5 to beat the Gauchos. Another big night from Jest Bianchi. He had 23 kills. He didn't have half of Santa Barbara's kills. He actually got some backup. Ben Court had 15 kills. Owen Berg had 14 kills. Bianchi also had 10 digs. Joe Wallace also had 15 digs. Ben Court also had 11 digs. Long Beach State was led by Skylar Varga, again, who had 19 kills. Sotiris Chapanis had 18 kills and 10 digs. Clark Godbold added 10 kills. The Beach only hit 285, but that was enough, as, once again, it was pretty ugly from the service line. But the blocks were in favor of Long Beach State in a big way. It was 11-7 in favor of the Beach. Digs were in favor of Santa Barbara, but Long Beach State got 17 digs from Mason Briggs, which was quite nice. And that's that for kind of the notable matchups right there. We didn't have any other upsets or notable matches in that regard. So all in all, it was a very fun week in terms of week number 10. And I also got a chance to interview Alan Knipe and Clark Godbold on this upcoming week regarding the Hawaii versus Long Beach State matchup and this season for Long Beach State altogether. So keep an eye out for the set point extra points. But let's get on into that AVCA top 20 in terms of the men's volleyball collegiate poll. As new number 1, we're going to go 1 through 5. New number 1 is Hawaii. They went 3-0, and they basically just took down some stiff competition. They convincingly swept Grand Canyon. I was just still surprised. But my only concern for Hawaii is is Spiros Hakas going to be back anytime soon? I highly doubt he plays against Long Beach State. If he does, then he has the power of immortality and healing. Long Beach State was still number 2. UCLA jumped up to 3. Grand Canyon, they say pride comes before a fall. Well, the fall came unfortunate for Grand Canyon, as they wound up falling to number 4. They fell 3 spots from their number 1 position. UC Irvine stayed put at 5 despite losing to Lewis, but they beat the then number 1 Lopes. Stanford moved up to 6. BYU down to 7 after the two teams split. Kind of shocked that BYU kind of went down. I know Stanford has a better schedule in terms of wins and in terms of wins and overall strength of schedule, but I'm just a little stunned that Stanford just moved up because of that. Ohio State stayed put at 8. Pepperdine moved up to 9. Penn State moved down to 10 after their rough week. I'm surprised Pepperdine... Now, Pepperdine, they actually played Belmont Abbey, which I was a little shocked at. I felt that maybe they could have convincingly swept them. But honestly, I was a little disappointed that they moved up. I would have maybe put SC at 9. And here's the thing about USC. They're not even in the top 10. Penn State loses to USC, but USC only goes up one spot. They move up from 12 to 11, and Penn State is still in the top 10, even though they wound up going 1-2 last week. So all in all, that's that for the top 10. And then, like I mentioned, SC is 11. Loyola Chicago moved down a spot. Interestingly enough, they didn't even play. But they did pick up a nice 4-set win over Princeton, which I'll be talking about in my week 11 preview. Ball State and Lewis, along with Princeton, CSUN, George Mason, UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, and McKendree all stayed at their normal spots. So yeah, 13 down was no change. And then everything else was pretty much a big change. So that's that for the AVCA Men's Volleyball Collegiate Poll. Jumping over to the Off the Block Media Poll, which is what I normally vote in every single week. So the most recent Off the Block poll was Stanford 10, Pepperdine 9, BYU and Ohio State tied for 7, which, funny enough, they played one another last week and split their matches. Penn State 6, UC Irvine 5, UCLA 4, Hawaii 3, Long Beach State 2, and Grand Canyon 1. I pretty much told you all who I voted for in that regard. And it was pretty much the same. But BYU Ohio State was so close yet so far. And I'm a little surprised Ohio State still remains in that ahead of Stanford, and I'm surprised Pepperdine also surpassed Stanford, even though they split their matches with the Cardinals. So there's that right there. Now, going to who I voted for in this week's this week's Off the Block Coach Media Poll. So no way to dance around this. I voted Hawaii as number 1 because Long Beach State going 5 with UC Santa Barbara, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. And they've cut it close with a few other opponents, like Penn State they had to go 4, Lewis they had to go 4, like back in week number 2 and 3, they had to go 4 with St. Francis, the Red Flash. They also went 4 with George Mason and NJIT. So I kind of put Long Beach State at 2. UCLA I put at 3. Grand Canyon I put at 4. I wanted to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt because I know they lost to UC Irvine. You could make the debate on putting Grand Canyon at 4 and UC Irvine, or UC Irvine at 4 and vice versa. I put UC Irvine 5 just because UC Irvine, I mean, other than this past weekend, I just don't know if I could put UC Irvine ahead because losing to Lewis was what really was the straw that broke the camel's back. I put Ohio State at 6, BYU at 7, Penn State at 8, Pepperdine at 9, and Stanford at 10. Kind of tough to pick between Stanford and Pepperdine just because Pepperdine only beat Belmont Abbey. I just couldn't really think on who to put ahead of who. And then Penn State, now here's the thing. I don't understand why I put Penn State at 8, especially since they have a loss to Stanford. But I will just say they have some decent wins. They did beat Ohio State, albeit Ohio State didn't have Jacob Pasteur, and they were number 1 at the time. So I'll give Penn State the benefit of the doubt. They do have a solid strength of schedule, but that could only go a long way. All right, and then like I said, Pepperdine Stanford was 9 and 10, and I voted Penn State 8. So there you have it. The Off the Block media poll comes out tomorrow on offtheblock.com. Hopefully I will be able to post that just because I'm going to be busy. And we'll circle the wagons back to NCAA men's volleyball a little later. So we got some NAIA men's volleyball to discuss, and I actually attended Vanguard University's men's volleyball match against Ottawa of Arizona. Now again, this was played at Calvary Chapel High School just because, sadly, Vanguard doesn't have a gymnasium. That's still under construction. Hopefully it gets reconstructed by the time we get to see them play in the MPSF. But as for this matchup, Vanguard swept Ottawa, but it wasn't as easy as it sounded. So, first set, Vanguard was able to take that first set 27-25. They actually led 24-22. Ottawa ties it up at 24 apiece, and it took Vanguard 4 set points, but they were able to get the job done, win that first set. They were able to win the second set quite nicely, 25-21. Then the third set was crazy. They were down by as many as 4, and then they eventually get it back up there. And I forgot to mention, Kyle Steele, bless his little heart, he actually is the head coach of Ottawa, Arizona. And if you remember who Kyle Steele is, he is the head coach of the Florida Southern Exposure of the NVA. He did get yellow carded in the second set, and then in the third set, there was a very interesting call as Vanguard got a block at the net, and Ottawa was up 17-15, and then Vanguard gets a block at the net. The entire team argues that there was a net violation, but I filmed that part. There was no net, and Kyle Steele was not happy. He pulled the tape down, and unfortunately the poor guy got red carded. That was just tough times. And eventually Vanguard was able to win that third set off a walk-off service ace from Ryan Smith. It was a big win for Vanguard, as Vanguard is the new number 1 in NAIA men's volleyball. Ottawa was ranked number 4. I had to go to this matchup. I know it meant me sacrificing going to the Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge, and it also meant me sacrificing going to Long Beach State versus UC Santa Barbara at Long Beach State. But this was the better... I wouldn't say this was the better matchup, but this was a matchup that was kind of worth the hype. Vanguard was led by Will Anderson. He had 16 kills. He hit .321. Reza Tamasebi and Andrew Shevland both had 8 kills. Ryan Smith had 2 aces, 4 digs, and he also had 35 assists to go along with his 2 kills. Vanguard as a team hit .308, while Ottawa of Arizona, they hit .295, as Emery Outen led the Spirit with 15 kills. Strangely enough, he actually had half of Ottawa's kills, as it wasn't really an ideal match for Ottawa. Unfortunately, their next kill leader was Nestor Ada, who had 6 kills. Strangely enough, and for those that don't know, Zio Meyer, the older brother of Zaina Meyer, who plays on Long Beach State, and the brother of Zach Meyer, who also plays on Florida Southern Exposure, he also played a little bit of right side. He had 25 assists. He had 3 service aces. His serve was so great. And in a small gymnasium like that, it's so tough to pass the ball. Now, unfortunately, I will give Ottawa the benefit of the doubt. Playing in such a small gymnasium is so tough. And I will just say, it's not ideal for the college level. I'm sorry, but it's not. I really would prefer Vanguard's matches being at Orange Coast College. I know they don't get the gymnasium too much, especially when they're sharing it with the OCC men's volleyball team and the OCC basketball teams, men's and women's. But I will just say it would be such a better venue, but I digress. I'm not going to argue just because it is what it is when it comes to this matchup, and sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. So, I also failed to mention that Vanguard also beat St. Xavier, yes, St. Xavier, not St. Catherine, in 3 sets 3 nights ago, and this was played at Orange Coast College. Vanguard was able to take the first set after trailing 23-22. They took it 25-23, took the second set quite nicely. Then the third set, they needed a little overtime, but they were able to win that third set just because they got some tough serving down the stretch. And Vanguard is still undefeated in NAIA men's volleyball. So definitely impressive stuff from the Lions. This week they are at Menlo, and might as well go over the NAIA men's volleyball poll, as it's kind of good. It's kind of good if you ask me. So Vanguard's number 1. The Masters College is number 2. Park University of Missouri, they're number 3. Ottawa of Arizona was 4. Grandview of Iowa, 5. Menlo which will be going into the MPSF along with Vanguard. They're number 6. William Penn of Iowa, they're 7. Georgetown of Kentucky, 8. Jamestown of North Dakota, they're 9. Mount Mercy of Iowa, they're 10. St. Xavier, as I just mentioned, that they played Vanguard, they're 11. Missouri Valley, they weren't ranked prior, they're 12. Lourdes of Ohio, they're 13, even though they're 6 and 7. Westcliff is 14. They weren't ranked previously. Indiana Tech is also 15. They jumped into the top 15 of the NAIA men's volleyball coaches poll. And that is pretty much that for the NAIA men's volleyball poll, as well as some of the matches that had. I know I wanted to make a brief synopsis of that, but honestly, I don't want to discuss too much of that. But I will say Vanguard is going to have... I'm going to say they're going to get a big challenge from Menlo just because it's a top 10 matchup. They're not playing at Calvary Chapel High School or Orange Coast College. They have to play at Menlo, and this has a big storyline. This is the battle of the future MPSF teams. So definitely keep an eye on Menlo versus Vanguard in terms of the NAIA men's volleyball scene. I'm going to try to hopefully watch it on a live stream, but time will tell. All right, but that's that for some NAIA men's volleyball. Jumping to some NCAA beach volleyball. All right, so in terms of the notable results that happened between the ranked-on-ranked teams, Friday we had UCLA handing Arizona State their first loss of the season, beating them 5-0. But then after that, Stanford beat UCLA 3-2. Stanford had clinched the match by the time the fourth duel was done. But what a tough way to lose for UCLA. The interesting thing was, though, Arizona State took down Stanford 3-0 or 3-2. So you have to kind of be perplexed at that. It's a rock, paper, scissors thing. UCLA beat Arizona State. Stanford beat UCLA. Arizona State beat Stanford. And then also on Friday, we had Florida State taking down number 20 Tampa 5-0. Saturday, UCLA got back on the high horse and took down Washington as well as Oregon. USC also took down Washington 5-0. And USC had a perfect weekend in Arizona at Arizona State as they didn't lose a match. And this is kind of the interesting thing about USC beach volleyball. All time when playing in Arizona, the state of Arizona, they've only lost one matchup. It's pretty crazy if you ask me. So I think USC has found another home outside of Los Angeles. Also, some other notable matchups. Number 2 Stanford swept number 7 Cal. Number 13 FIU upset number 6 LMU 3-2. And that wasn't the only upset that LMU suffered. They lost to number 9 Long Beach State 3-2. So what a ugly weekend for the Lions. Long Beach State also beat FIU 4-1. USC took down Arizona and they also took down Oregon 5-0. We got to see Molly Phillips put on a clinic against the Oregon Ducks. Cal also took down number 10 Arizona State 3-2. Number 7 Cal took down number 10 Arizona State 3-2. And then Arizona State salvaged the weekend with a win over number 19 Arizona, winning that 3-2. Nice little week right there for Arizona State. Unfortunately, they are no longer undefeated, but life goes on in that regard. So looking at this week's matchups, so this week I forgot to mention, I'm going to be at the Long Beach State tournament at Long Beach City College. So yeah, the Long Beach State tournament is going to be at Long Beach City. They're going to be playing the likes of Texas, Nebraska. I think they're also playing CSUN, if I'm not mistaken. But again, they'll be playing at Long Beach City College. Unfortunately, I really wish it wasn't at Long Beach City College. I wish it was just at Long Beach State. But hey, what can you do? But looking ahead to some other matches, and I'm going to definitely try my darndest to interview the likes of John Cook, if he's there, and some of his players, and interview some other players at that as well. So looking at the Friday slate, we have some fairly fascinating matchups. USC FAU, that's a good matchup right there. UCLA Grand Canyon, it's a sneaky good matchup, but Grand Canyon, no offense to them, they're not as good as they have been in the past. I know they have a first-year head coach, but still. Then you got LSU Cal. That's a very good matchup right there. Top 10 matchup at that. Texas Long Beach State. It was a great matchup in the indoor game, but I don't know about... Well, maybe Texas can challenge Long Beach State, just because Texas does have some transfers that they got, and obviously Stein Metzger, who left UCLA to coach at Texas, he is a mastermind in terms of beach volleyball, so you never know what could happen. You got LMU Georgia State on Friday as well. Hawaii Florida State, that's another good matchup. Florida State Cal, really good matchup right there. LMU Grand Canyon, kind of a good matchup. LSU versus UCLA, another really good matchup. Long Beach State's also playing Arizona State. Very good matchup right there. Top 10 matchup, a big test for both of those teams. Hawaii also takes on Georgia State. So those are Friday's matchups right there. Saturday's notable matchups, looking at them, they consist of Florida State UCLA. Such a big test for the Bruins. Huge test for the Bruins. Huge test for the Noles. Tampa Stephen F. Austin. That's kind of a sneaky good matchup. FIU USC. Very good matchup right there. Maybe a chance for FIU to try to get back into the top 10. Well, they were 13 going into last week's coaches poll, but a chance to really prove themselves. LMU Florida State. Also a very good matchup. This is kind of an underrated one. Nebraska, Texas in beach volleyball. Now, I imagine, this is no knock on Nebraska, but I imagine, and I have been seeing some of Nebraska's beach volleyball matches on live stream. Some of their matches or some of their duels are basically their indoor players basically taking the court on the sand. So it's a little interesting. Obviously, I need to interview John Cook and get his perspective on why his indoor players are playing beach. But it's sort of a good thing. I know Long Beach State has that sort of thing of their indoor players play beach as well, but I digress. After that, we got Georgia State versus Cal, another good matchup. LSU Hawaii, very good matchup. TCU USC, very, very good matchup right there, just because that's a rematch of last year's national semifinal in the NCAA tournament, where USC wound up beating TCU en route to winning their third straight national championship. That's a very good matchup right there. St. Mary, Utah, that's a sneaky good matchup right there. LMU, LSU, another good matchup. Maybe LMU can get back on track. And Hawaii, Cal, that's another good matchup right there. I don't think North Florida, Cal Poly is an interesting matchup. Nothing against North Florida. Maybe Pacific Cal Poly is a sneaky good matchup. I wouldn't say it's the matchup of the weekend, but what can you do? So that's going to do it for all of Saturday's matchups. And then Sunday's matchups, we don't have too much. We have, I guess the best matchup would probably be Santa Clara Cal Poly, but that's kind of where the buck stops in that regard. So there's that right there for the top NCAA beach volleyball matches to watch for. And then looking at the AVCA coaches poll regarding the beach volleyball coaches poll, this was from last Tuesday, so it gets updated every Tuesday at noon Pacific time. So UCLA still stayed at 1, Stanford still stayed at 2, USC 3, Florida State 4, TCU, like I predicted, they moved up to 5, LMU moved down to 6 after LMU took a tumble against Cal. Cal went up to 7, LSU moved down to 8, Long Beach State moved up a little to 9, Arizona State's in the top 10, they were at number 10. Cal Poly, after that amazing weekend where they took down Cal and GCU, they jumped to 11. Hawaii moved down to 12 after a rough weekend. FIU was 13. Washington 14. Florida Atlantic or FAU 15. Georgia State 16. Grand Canyon 17. Stetson 18. Arizona 19. Tampa 20. So that's kind of going to do it for the AVCA Beach Volleyball Collegiate Poll. So this week's going to be a fun week in terms of beach volleyball. Lots of great matchups, and it's going to be tough to keep track of that and the NCAA men's volleyball scene, but I'll do my darndest. And Cal Poly was the high riser as they had the biggest jumping from 18 all the way to 11, which was darn right impressive. All right, but that's enough for some NCAA Beach Volleyball. Jumping to some 3C2A men's volleyball. So I didn't talk about this, and I feel horrible for a certain individual that I actually interacted on Instagram with. He actually messaged me saying that Golden West's men's volleyball team, which was number 3 in the nation, or number 3 in the polls, they took down number 2 San Diego Mesa on the road in 4, which was darn right impressive. The first set, San Diego Mesa stomped on them, won by 10, 25-15. But then every set that Golden West won, they wound up winning by 2. Second set was 25-23, third set 27-25, third set 25-23, fourth set 25-23. That was a marquee win for Golden West. They're doing a lot of great things under second-year head coach Nick Amato. Santa Monica also took down Moore Park in 5. That was a doozy, especially in that 5th set. Irvine Valley swept Grossmont, and this was from 2 weeks ago. Orange Coast took down Miramar on the road. Long Beach City swept Santa Barbara City, which I thought was an impressive win. Also another impressive win, Santa Monica outlasting Santa Barbara City in 5. Golden West beat Miramar 2 Fridays ago in 4. That was pretty much that in terms of some of those notable matchups. Also, Long Beach City took down Moore Park in 5. That was another true win. And Long Beach City's starting to get really hot. They're starting to really figure things out. And then moving on to last week's 3C2A men's volleyball matches. Irvine Valley, now their matchup against San Diego Miramar actually got postponed. I don't know why, unfortunately. Maybe it's because there were some car troubles, just because going from San Diego all the way to Irvine, that's a pretty long drive, but it is what it is. But last Monday, Irvine Valley had to pull off a 5-set thriller to take down Miramar. 5th set was decided 18-16 as those Lasers avoided a big upset. But it was a huge win for Rory Jones and the Lasers. Then last Wednesday, Moore Park swept El Camino. That was kind of expected. Orange Coast swept Grossmont. That's a pretty solid Grossmont team as the Pirates now start conference play this week in the Orange Empire Conference against Fullerton. Should be able to handle the first 2 matches, but then the latter 2 conference matches are going to be very tough, having going on the road against Golden West, and then closing out the first half of conference play with Irvine Valley. And it's vice versa for the second half. And then Long Beach City took down Santa Monica in 5. That was big for the Vikings. And then San Diego Mesa swept Irvine Valley on the road. Another big win right there for the Olympians, staying within the top 5. And then Friday we didn't have too many notable matches. All we had in terms of noteworthiness was Irvine Valley taking on St. Xavier. So they took on St. Xavier, which I think is pretty cool. So NAIA versus 3C2A, and St. Xavier wound up winning in 4, but I will give credit to IVC. That's pretty impressive that they battled. And then Moore Park took on Wentworth IT, which I guess is pretty good. So there wasn't an official result just because it was a scrimmage. And then this week, Wednesday, I'm going to be in attendance for this one. Irvine Valley at Golden West. That's going to be a fun one. I really think Irvine Valley is going to give a big test to Golden West. But Golden West is playing such darn good volleyball, and this was kind of a request that I wanted my attendance for this match, and I definitely want to be in attendance for this matchup and will be in attendance for this. Also, on Wednesday, we have Grossmont taking on San Diego Mesa. That's a pretty good matchup right there. Obviously, I feel Mesa is going to be the overwhelmer, but you never know what could happen. And then jumping over to Friday, San Diego Mesa hosts San Diego Miramar. Moore Park hosts Santa Barbara City. That's kind of pretty much that for all the notable matches this week. It's kind of a quiet week, but it's still a fun week, especially with IVC Golden West headlining the 3C2A men's volleyball. And that's going to do it for the recap of 3C2A men's volleyball. So the top 10 in terms of 3C2A men's volleyball, Orange Coast is still number 1. Golden West, as everyone expected, jumped up to number 2. San Diego Mesa is 3. Irvine Valley is 4. Moore Park is 5. Santa Monica, despite beating Moore Park, is 6. Long Beach City had the biggest jump, going from number 10 to number 7. Santa Barbara City moved down to number 8. Grossmont is number 9, and Miramar is number 10. So now that's that for the 3C2A men's volleyball. So discussing a little high school boys volleyball, and then I'll take myself a quick little break. So the Big West, the Best of the West tournament was this past weekend, and it had a lot of good teams. Remember how I said that any team could have beaten any team? Well, there were some 3-setters, because the tournament format was matches are best 2 out of 3 instead of 3 out of 5. But in this tournament, it was just a barn burner. There was lots of really good teams, such as Mira Costa of Manhattan Beach, Newport Harbor being last year's Southern Section champion, Loyola of Los Angeles, the USA Today national champion, Corona Del Mar, who has Sterling Foley, who's going to USC, Huntington Beach is up there. Torrey Pines was probably one of the more impressive teams. Sandra Day O'Connor, who went 40-0 a couple seasons ago, that they were in this tournament as well. Punahou, always a really good team, high school boys volleyball team from Hawaii. They were in the tournament. The list goes on and on. So I'm only going to limit this to the top 16. So in the top 16, Mira Costa took down San Clemente 25-17 and 25-18. Punahou took down Beckman 25-19 and 25-21. Sandra Day O'Connor swept Cathedral Catholic 25-18 and 25-17. And then Torrey Pines took down Kamehameha Kapalama 26-24 and 26-24. Kamehameha is actually a solid team, but Torrey Pines really showed their stuff. They won their pool, and they wound up being the number 4 overall seed in the knockout round, which I think is pretty darn impressive. Going down to the lower bracket of the gold division, we had Huntington Beach sweeping Servite 25-16 and 25-13. The battle of 2 former set point guests in their coaches, Matt Marujo of Servite and Craig Pizzanti of Huntington Beach. Then the next matchup below that, we had Newport Harbor defeating Corona Del Mar 25-17 and 25-22. Now, I don't know if anyone was paying attention to this, but Newport Harbor actually lost to Torrey Pines in pool play, and I was very skeptical of this matchup. I did not think Newport Harbor was going to sweep Corona Del Mar, but unfortunately for the Sea Kings, they just ran into a buzzsaw, and Riggs Guy obviously was an animal that tournament. Tesoro swept Edison 25-17, 25-22. And here was another shocker. Mater Dei, the Monarchs, everyone's favorite football factory, they took down Loyola in 3 sets, 27-25, 20-25, and 15-12. Now, this is the second straight season where we've seen Loyola, unfortunately, lose in the first round of the gold bracket. They did eventually tie for 9th place, but I don't know. Maybe Loyola doesn't peak in this tournament, but it still is a little perplexing seeing the Cubs just losing to the Monarchs, who the Monarchs aren't even at full strength. They still have a few players that aren't eligible due to the whole transfer period and whatnot. But that was still an impressive win for former set point guest Jake Nuneviller and the Monarchs. And then off to the quarterfinals, we had Mira Costa sweeping Punahou 25-12 and 25-20. Then Torrey Pines. This was another shocker in my opinion. Now, I don't know how good Sandra Day O'Connor is this season, but Torrey Pines took down Sandra Day O'Connor 20-25, 25-16, and 17-15. I personally thought Sandra Day O'Connor was going to win the whole tournament, but unfortunately they just fell to Torrey Pines. Torrey Pines was kind of the little engine that could, and I was darn right impressed with Torrey Pines with this tournament. And then we had Newport Harbor taking down Huntington Beach 25-19 and 25-23. I had a feeling Newport Harbor would win, but Huntington Beach made the Sailors sweat in that second set. I will just say that. I think Huntington Beach is going to be a tough out for Newport Harbor and Corona Del Mar, for that matter, once league play kicks off. And it actually does kick off this Friday, but more on that later. And then also we had Tesoro taking down Mater Dei 25-23 and 25-22. This was a little perplexing just because Tesoro has had its ups and downs. Them beating Edison for the second straight tournament was quite impressive. But then them beating Mater Dei after Mater Dei just beat Loyola is a little perplexing as well. So they made it to the semifinals. And then in the semifinals we had Mira Costa outlasting Torrey Pines 22-25, 25-20, and 15-10. And then the other semifinal, we had Newport Harbor breezing past Tesoro 25-19 and 25-16. Now, this is no knock on Tesoro. I felt that they ran out of gas after they took down Mater Dei, and they they faced a Newport Harbor team, which they already faced, and they wound up losing in a best 3 out of 5 match a couple weeks ago. So, in my opinion, I feel Tesoro just had the deck stacked against them in this matchup, and the clock just struck midnight for Tesoro. But they and Torrey Pines had probably the best tournament, in my opinion. And that tied for third place finish for Tesoro is actually the best they finished. And I think that's the same can be said for Torrey Pines. But in the final of the Best of the West tournament, Miracosta swept Newport Harbor 25-15 and 25-19. Now, here's the thing about that matchup. I was a little surprised Newport Harbor got beat that badly. And that's no knock on the team. It's a lot of volleyball being played, especially high-level volleyball. But 3 days ago, Newport Harbor took down Miracosta at Miracosta in 5 sets in a best 3 out of 5 match. So to say that I'm a little surprised that Newport Harbor wound up getting swept is a little surprising. But Riggs Guy was just all over the place. Riggs Guy is going to UC Santa Barbara. From what I heard, he had 35 kills, but from what I saw in terms of the article that had the game covered, he had 27 kills. But regardless, Riggs Guy was just on one in that matchup. Now, unfortunately, I was unable to see if all of who made all tournament, which is now being posted. So the Victor Loyola was no doubt. He was named MVP for the Best of the West tournament. He's going to Long Beach State. Jake Pizzanti also made all tournament for Huntington Beach. Tyler Robinson made all tournament for Mater Dei. Alex Haynes and Johnny Dykstra, they both made all-tournament. Riggs Guy and Grayson Springborn, they made all-tournament for Newport Harbor. Evan Porter made all-tournament for Punahou. Finn Kearney made all-tournament for Sandra Day O'Connor. He's actually going to Hawaii. Kumana Carreria made all-tournament for Tesoro, as well as Henry Utterback. Christian Connell and David Quinones both made all-tournament for Torrey Pines. I'm not going to really get into who they're or what schools some of these players are going to, but you can go look on the Best of the West tournament. All right, but that's going to do it for a little high school boys volleyball talk. I'm actually going to check out a high-level boys volleyball match between Newport Harbor and Corona Del Mar at Corona Del Mar High School on Friday. Now, that is going to conflict with another big-time NCAA men's volleyball match. Which match is that? You'll have to find out a little bit later. But for right now, we'll take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, we'll talk some Pro Volleyball Federation, and then we'll discuss Week 11 of the NCAA men's volleyball season. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide for your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Defining Moment, Sin City Sports, and Chi-Town Weekly, as that show, the latter show, Chi-Town Weekly, goes on an hour before Set Point primarily. But let's get on back into some volleyball action, as we only have 2 more segments to go. I've pretty much knocked out everything with high school boys volleyball, 3C2A men's volleyball, NAIA men's volleyball, NCAA men's volleyball for the first half, and NCAA Beach Volleyball. But we have to talk a little Pro Volleyball Federation. So, I will just say it's a little frustrating having to deal with matches that are going on when I'm live. It really is. And honestly, I don't like it. I know the Pro Volleyball Federation can't do anything about it, but it is what it is, and I'm just going to have to take the L and save that for next week, because last week I couldn't talk about it all that much, just because there were 2 matches going on at 7 p.m. Pacific time, which is an hour after I go live, and I'm still going live, but it is what it is. Alright, so last week, this past last week, I didn't miss much with this matchup. So the Atlanta Vibe took down the Vegas Thrill in straight sets, as they won 25-16, 25-18, and 26-24. The third set was a little more interesting, but the Vibe, being such a very talented team, wound up sneaking out with that third set, as Leah Edmond led the way with 15 kills, and she hit 500. Magda Yalashrava had 10 kills. She hit 590. She also had 4 blocks, which was pretty darn good. And Anna Lazareva had 11 kills, and she had 3 blocks. It was a block party in that match, so gotta give a hat tip to the Atlanta Vibe, as Gabby Gonzalez, she had 15 kills. She hit 480 for the Thrill. Kat Bell had 8 kills and 2 blocks. Again, I didn't really get to watch this matchup too much, as the other matchup that was playing, the San Diego Mojo taking on Grand Rapids Rise, that was a very good matchup. And I will just say, I am darn right impressed with the San Diego Mojo. I don't know what it is, but the Mojo seem to have the Grand Rapids Rise's number. As the first, I actually caught them after midway through the third set, and the Mojo just really, they had their mojo going as they basically just stomped all over Grand Rapids Rise in that third set. In the fourth set, the Mojo were actually leading for a good portion of that fourth set, and then the Rise just came alive late in that fourth set and then forced a fifth set. But the Mojo just had enough in the tank to win that fifth set, eventually beating Grand Rapids Rise for a second time at the same gym floor as Lindsay Vanderweide had 13 kills, 4 blocks, and 3 aces. Temi Thomas-Ailara led the charge offensively with 16 kills. Nutsara Tomcom, she had 19 digs to go along with 49 assists. And Hannah Tapp had 8 kills on a 730 attack percentage, and she also had 5 blocks. Claire Chausse led the Rise with 13 kills, while Emilia Dimitrova had 21 kills. So the takeaway from that one is, I know it's a little late, but I'm very unpleased with how the Rise don't seem to have the, what's the word? They don't seem to have the answer for the San Diego Mojo. Like, on paper, the Rise should be able to win that one, but there's something about playing at Viejas Arena against the Mojo that just seems to trip up the Rise. And those type of losses could be the difference between being a certain seed and possibly missing the playoffs, or just being a lower seed, and then possibly getting the likes of maybe the Omaha Supernovas and whatnot. Anyway, before I continue on, Larry B popped in the chat room. He said, "Hey, Teran," and he said, "Love the name of today's show." And as I said, the pun of today's show was Hawaii 3-0. I titled it Hawaii 3-0, referencing the show Hawaii 5-0. And Patty Bax also popped into the chat room. She said, "Continue having a great show, Teran. I'm listening as I'm preparing for my show tomorrow. So much happened today, and there is so much more coming tomorrow." Well, that's great, and hopefully you will have an amazing and outstanding show tomorrow, Patty. Moving on and continuing on with the Pro Volleyball Federation. So the set scores of the Rise Mojo matchup was the Rise won the first set 25-16. Mojo won the second set 25-19, and the third set 25-17. Rise won the fourth set 25-22, and then the Mojo took that third set 15-9. Next up, we had the Atlanta Vibe taking on the Vegas Thrill. So this was a triple header on Saturday. And let's just say a triple header isn't really the most ideal thing regarding the Pro Volleyball Federation, especially since there's only one YouTube platform. I mean, yes, you can maybe watch on your phone and watch on a laptop, but it's just not ideal having to divide your attention into 2 different matches. But the Atlanta Vibe swept the Vegas Thrill 25-16, 25-18, and 26-24. It was almost a replay of the previous match. It looked eerily familiar. Am I sure I'm looking? Oh no, I'm a dingbat. I'm looking at the wrong matchup, and I'm looking at the wrong matchup as this was played on March 4th, and the previous matchup was the. I'm looking for another matchup. There were 2 matches that happened last Monday. So, that was the Grand Rep. No, it wasn't. So, I don't know what I was thinking of in terms of thinking that there were 2 of the same matches. But yeah, on the 4th, last Monday was the 4th. Saturday was the Vegas Thrill took down. No, the Vibe took down the Thrill in 4. So I'm looking at the wrong matchup, which is a fail on my part. So the Vibe wound up winning in 4, 25-16, 22-25, 25-23, and 25-20. I was wondering why this looked rather eerily wrong. Anyway, so Leah Edmond led the way with 15 kills. Shelly Fanning had 13 kills, 2 blocks and 2 aces, and she hit 620. Magda Yalashrava had 8 kills, 7 blocks, and 2 aces. Kat Bell led the way for Vegas with 11 kills and 3 blocks. Kenneth Sauer had 10 kills and 3 blocks. And then the other matchup before that was Grand Rapids Rise defeating the Columbus Fury in 4 sets. Now, I was kind of surprised by this, but at the same time, if you all recall, the Rise actually had the number for the Fury the first go-around. This time, the Fury was a little bit better, but they're still missing key pieces to their team, such as Asia O'Neal. They need to get Asia O'Neal back ASAP, because if not, that is no bueno on her part. Anyway, so Grand Rapids Rise was able to beat the Columbus Fury a second time, and then I guess I should also mention that sets 3 and 4 were 17 and 23 in favor of the Rise. Anyway, Claire Chaussee led the way with 17 kills. Amelia Dimitrova had 14 kills and 3 blocks. And then Maren Grote had 7 kills, 4 blocks, and an ace. Megan Courtney led the Columbus Fury with 13 kills, 3 aces, and 2 blocks. Raynell Jones had 5 kills and 4 blocks and 2 aces, while Reagan Cooper only had 8 kills and 1 block. Okay, this is something I gotta address. If Reagan Cooper has those numbers, it's going to be tough for the Fury to win that one. And also, sad thing is that in addition to not having Asia O'Neal, the Fury also didn't have Sam Drexel, as they also didn't have her in today's matchup, as she has a concussion. And a big thank you to @AvidVolley on X, formerly known as Twitter, for informing me of that. So thank you to @AvidVolley for informing me of that. Just had a lot going on today, which if you check my X, you will figure out why. Anyway, so the last matchup that was played on Saturday was actually the Omaha Supernovas taking on the Orlando Valkyries. So on paper, I thought to myself, well, this one's probably going to go in favor of Omaha just because they seem to have the number for the Valkyries. And that trend still continued as the Supernovas wound up beating the Valkyries 25-19, 17-25, 25-18, 18-25, and 15-6. Now, the fifth set, I was very surprised that Orlando pretty much ran out of gas as the Supernovas jumped out to a 5-0 lead and the end. Again, that's no disrespect to the Valkyries, but honestly, the Supernovas just seem to have the number for Orlando, as Brooke Nuneviller had 20 kills, Alison Mayfield, who came off the bench, she had 12 kills, Christina Vuchkova, she had 9 kills and 4 blocks, Jill Gillen led the way for Orlando with 20 kills, Adora Ane had 12 kills, but unfortunately that was not enough for Orlando as Omaha had their number yet again. And then today, being Monday, the Vegas Thrill took down the Columbus Fury in 4 sets. Now, that is the way to get revenge on against the team that you have lost to previously. But again, no Asia O'Neal and then no Sam Drexel because of a concussion. And then Asia O'Neal obviously has an ankle injury. And someone put it best on X, formerly known as Twitter. No Asia O'Neal, no victory. Now, I know the Fury have other players like Reagan Cooper, but she had 14 kills. Randall Jones had 9 kills. They need to get more production from their other players like Megan Courtney, maybe Jenna Rosenthal as well. Vegas was led by Kat Bell, who had 11 kills, 4 blocks, and an ace. Berkeley Oblad led the way she was second in kills with 13 kills and 2 blocks, while Hannah Maddox led the kill department with 14 kills, and she also added a block. So there you have it right there. So unfortunately for me and myself, who is talking Pro Volleyball Federation, there is another matchup going on, and that is the Orlando Valkyries heading down to San Diego to take on the San Diego Mojo. Currently right now we have the Mojo leading 15-12 in set number 1. But you're not here to hear me commentate because I am not that. This isn't a commentation thing. This is a volleyball podcast, but I digress. All right, looking ahead to this week's matchup. So the week 8 of the Pro Volleyball Federation starts on Thursday when the Atlanta Vibe heads down to Omaha to take on the Omaha Supernovas or the CHI Health Center. Regardless, look, I would not be surprised if the Supernovas wound up winning this matchup just because Well, I'm just going to say this right now. I think Omaha is playing so much better volleyball, and it's very scary for the entire league, as the Vibe and the Supernovas are actually tied for first place at 7-3. That's the very scary thing about this matchup, and whoever wins this matchup will have a leg up on the other team. And both these teams have split their matchups. The Vibe, as we all know, they wound up beating the Supernovas in 5 the first go-around in Omaha, and then Omaha paid back Atlanta in 3 when the two teams met at Gas South Arena in Atlanta. So now it's back to the CHI Health Center, and both these teams will be facing one another, and it's going to be a barn burner. I almost said farn burner. What's a farn burner? But that is on Thursday. Saturday, the Omaha Supernovas will host the Orlando Valkyries, and I am 99% certain the Orlando Valkyries must be getting tired of playing the Omaha Supernovas, just because the Supernovas just seem to have their number. And I don't want to say this in a mean way when it comes to the Orlando Valkyries, but I just feel Omaha is going to win this one. Now, maybe you learn more from a loss than you obviously learn more loss than you do from a win, but you could also learn a lot more from a win than you can a loss, according to Alan Knight. So I will just say maybe Orlando makes it competitive. I just don't see Orlando beating Omaha unless Jill Gillen goes off and Omaha has the worst night of their lives. But that ain't going to happen, in my opinion. Mike Pat pops in the chat room. He says, Teran, good evening, sir. Thanks, Mike. So jumping over to Sunday, St. Patty's Day, we have the Vegas Thrill taking on Grand Rapids Rise at Vandale Arena in Grand Rapids. So here's the thing for this matchup. I feel the Rise are going to win this one, but I would not be surprised if the Thrill wound up making it a contest. Now, they obviously need Molly McCage back and most of their other players, but having Hannah Maddox back is big. But if you're looking at the website, Grand Rapids Rise is in 4th place in the Pro Volleyball Federation standings. Vegas Thrill is 3-7, so Thrill have a little bit of a ways to get back into the top 4. But as you all know, top 4 of the Pro Volleyball Federation make the playoffs, and then the other 3 teams are on the outside looking in. So this is just as important as the Thrill, just because they still have a chance to make the top 4. I know it's still early to look at playoffs, but the Vibe and the Supernovas are light years. Okay, I wouldn't say light years ahead, but they're still miles ahead of the other 5 teams in the Pro Volleyball Federation. So I think it's safe to say the Vibe and the Supernovas are on a collision course to being the 1 and 2 seed, whereas the 3 and 4 seed can belong to anyone. Heck, even the Mojo can get hot. But unfortunately for the San Diego Mojo, they don't play outside of today. So we'll just have to wait and see what the Mojo have to bring to the table. And who knows, maybe the Mojo pull off the win over the Valkyries, just because it's a trip from across the country. And currently right now, the Mojo are leading the Valkyries 19-15. It was a service error by the Mojo, so yuck. Anyway, so that's going to do it for the Pro Volleyball Federation, and as I just mentioned regarding the standings, Vibe and Supernovas are both 7-3. The Fury are in 3rd place. They are 4-3. The Rise are 4-4. The Valkyries are 4-6. The Vegas Thrill are 3-7, and the Mojo are 2-5. All right, that's going to do it for the Pro Volleyball Federation right there. I know that was a little bit shorter than the other segments, but again, we're almost approaching 90 minutes with this recording, so lastly, we have the top matches to watch for in Week 11. So, I don't know if you all saw on X and Instagram, but I actually released my video of top matches to watch for earlier. Because normally I release that every Tuesday, but since Loyola and Princeton faced one another, number 15 Princeton took on number 12 Loyola, I want to do it a day earlier. And I was going to be busy tomorrow as well, so I wasn't going to have enough time to record it. But, Loyola took down Princeton in 4. I can't really go too much into detail just because I didn't really get a chance to see that matchup in its entirety. But it's a good win for Loyola. I'm very impressed by the Ramblers. They've actually won 4 in a row, as this week is kind of a big week for them. They take on Purdue Fort Wayne and another big-time opponent this week. But for Princeton, my takeaway for them in a synopsis is unfortunately, they're just having a rough go. Thankfully, that was an MIVA opponent, not an EIVA opponent, as hopefully for their sake they can get back on track, especially when EIVA play resumes. But we'll see what happens. Moving on from that matchup, we have number 19 UC Santa Barbara heading down to Irvine to take on number 5 UC Irvine. The two teams also face each other on Friday. All right, on paper, this looks like a mismatch, but the Gauchos really played Long Beach State tough. Now, here's the thing for UC Irvine. Thankfully, for their sake, they're going to be playing in the Brent Event Center and no longer in the Crawford Hall. So I imagine the Anteaters are going to get the better of the Gauchos, at least this time around, maybe in the Thunderdome as well. But don't count out UC Santa Barbara, especially if Jest Bianchi goes off again. But he can't carry that team by himself. He needs all the help he can get. Otherwise, Santa Barbara is going to be at the mercy of Halir Heno, Will Darcy, Connor Campbell, Akil Tangatour, Max Grigoriev, Brett Sheward. The list goes on and on, even though Sheward's the setter, but I digress. Jumping over to Thursday and staying in the Big West Conference, we have number 16 CSUN heading down to La Jolla to take on number 18 UC San Diego. The two teams also face each other on Friday in Northridge. All right, this matchup is rather interesting. I like this matchup just because both these teams were chosen to finish 5th in the Big West Conference. That being said, the Tritons have a good chance of winning this matchup and finishing 4th. Because if they finish 4th, they could possibly avoid facing the likes of UC Irvine or Long Beach State or Hawaii or whoever finishes 3rd in the Big West Conference and not facing them in the Big West Conference tournament. This matchup definitely has some implications, and CSUN, while they can't really move up when it comes to if they beat UC San Diego, they could possibly move down if they lose twice to the Tritons. But I will just say this for UC San Diego, if they could beat UC Santa Barbara, they definitely have a shot at beating CSUN. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as everyone thinks it is, especially since CSUN didn't lose too much to graduation. Jumping over to the MIVA, we have number 13 Ball State taking on number 8 Ohio State at Ohio State. All right, this is the battle for first place. It's the battle of the top two teams in the MIVA. Ball State and Ohio State are facing each other for the first time this season, as both these teams they're having iffy seasons, but at the same time they're still pretty solid. I think both these teams, it's so iffy on who can finish first in the MIVA. I think either of these teams definitely have a shot. But whoever wins will basically take over first place and will have a leg up on the other team regarding the MIVA. So we'll see what happens when it comes to this matchup. But if I had to pick, I'd maybe pick Ohio State. Sorry, I'd pick Ohio State just because they have a lot of firepower. But you never want to count out Ball State, especially Tanashi Indava-Zocheva. Also on Thursday, we have number 20 McKendree hitting the road to Romeoville to take on number 14 Lewis. All right, this is going to be a fun matchup right here. And this is McKendree's chance to really prove themselves. This week is such a huge week just because they play Lewis Thursday and then they play Loyola on Saturday. So this is kind of an in-state rivalry here, especially for McKendree. They're only 2 games, I want to say they're only like 2 or so games back of Ball State. They're still within striking distance of that number 1 spot in the MIVA. And 2 wins over 2 teams that are ranked ahead of McKendree will definitely solidify them as a ranked team in the top 20. Now, if you're McKendree, you're probably thinking those 2 losses to Purdue Fort Wayne are starting to hurt really bad. And without those 2 losses, McKendree is probably either on the coattails of Ball State or they're either on the same level as Ball State because they've beaten Ball State. Or they're on the same level as Ohio State. But time will tell. I really think this is going to be a fun matchup, and don't be surprised if this one goes 5. And then Lewis obviously went 1-2, beating UC Irvine, but falling to the likes of Grand Canyon and Hawaii. And closing off Thursday's matchups, we have number 1 USC taking on number 9 Pepperdine in Malibu. All right, it's only a 1-game series this week, as USC obviously split their matches last week. Pepperdine didn't really get too challenged. I will say this, I feel USC can win this one. This is USC's chance to prove themselves, pick up another top 10 victory, and honestly, maybe turn some heads and maybe tell the committee or tell the people in the coaches poll, hey, we deserve to be in that top 10 coaches poll. So I really give USC a good shot at beating Pepperdine on the road, but Pepperdine is not to be underestimated. I feel USC has been more battle-tested, but it's a time-will-tell process with Pepperdine. And then we jump to Friday and Saturday. This is the big matchup of the week right here. Number one Hawaii hits the road to Long Beach to take on number 2 Long Beach State. The two teams are also facing each other on Saturday. What more can you ask for when it comes to the number 1 team taking on the number 2 team? And this is a big-time rivalry between Hawaii and Long Beach State. My only hope is that it's being nationally televised. If it's not, we riot. But I will just say, I'm really hoping we get ourselves a barn burner with this matchup. I really think that we get ourselves an epic matchup. Unfortunately, I can't be there Friday just because, as I mentioned, I'm going to that big-time high school boys volleyball match between Newport Harbor and Corona Del Mar. Oh, what a bad week for that to be on the same day as Hawaii and Long Beach State. But it is what it is. Last year when Newport Harbor and Corona Del Mar faced one another, their matchup on St. Paddy's Day fell on the same day as Hawaii Long Beach State when the two teams were facing each other in Hawaii. So it goes both ways, unfortunately. And then, like I said, the two teams are also facing each other on Saturday. I already mentioned UC San Diego CSUN and UC Irvine Santa Barbara. And then closing off the matches to watch for in Week 11, number 20 McKendree at number 12 Lewis. All right. Again, this is a big week for McKendree. They have a chance to really prove themselves. If they get 1, if not 2 wins, not only will they be solidified as a top 20 team, but I think they could definitely pose a threat in the MIVA tournament. Just because everyone chose McKendree to finish 7th in the MIVA, but I always see McKendree as such an underrated team. Remember, they beat Loyola in the MIVA tournament last season, and Loyola was the number 2 seed. McKendree was the 7th seed. McKendree also lost to Quincy, for goodness sake. So, in my opinion, McKendree is definitely a good team. They're not to be underestimated. Underestimate them at your own risk. And honestly, I gotta give it up to McKendree. Their coaching staff, their program is definitely on the underrated side. And it definitely doesn't get a whole lot of talk just because the MIVA is flooded with the talent that is Ohio State, Ball State, Loyola, Lewis, even Lindenwood, and Lindenwood's getting more recognition, and Purdue Fort Wayne too. So McKendree gets the shaft, but they're out here winning games left and right, and they're proving that they deserve to be in the top 20, and they deserve to be recognized as a threat to any team in the MIVA, especially come time in the MIVA tournament. All right, and that is going to do it for the Week 11 NCAA men's volleyball matches to watch for. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. It's time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room, Mike, Pat, Patty Bax, Larry B, Jen B, and Ralph Cleese. I do appreciate y'all tuning in and popping into the chat room. I'm not sure if I'll be going live on Friday. I might. It's leaning towards that I'm probably going to go live with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, but it's still up in the air. I might check out the Long Beach State Beach Volleyball Tournament, but we'll see. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. Share this show in its entirety with anyone who's a volleyball fan. You won't be disappointed. Timestamps will also be added into the description. I'll see you all Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace!